Do you find that your weight loss results are negatively impacted every time you travel? Do you desire to fully enjoy your travel, eat like a normal person, and still keep your results? If you want to know how I traveled the world for 19 days without dieting, without access to a kitchen, and without sabotaging my results, then stick around because that's exactly what I'm sharing in today's video. Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Concita Thomas. I'm a food and fitness strategist. I help women over 40 lose 30 plus pounds and, more importantly, keep it off without diets and without excessive exercise. That is a result that I have gotten for myself and helped several other women achieve. And I speak about the components that are involved in getting that result here on my channel. And right now I'm fresh off of a 19-day adventure around the world where I was able to prove to myself yet again that this stuff that I have been using now for quite some time, over a decade, and helping other people use actually works again and again and again, even as I start to creep up toward the late 40s and closer to 50, still works. So let's get into it. So to give you a little bit of background, if you don't know my story, I get all into it on episode 1 of my podcast, which is linked in the description. But long story short, your girl is not the type of girl who has never struggled with her weight, who has never dieted really hard or over-exercised to achieve or to try and hold on to a result at all. And I am someone who has worked over a decade to really crack the code on sustainable weight loss, how to get it for myself, how to help others achieve it. And so I'm always excited when something outside of my norm happens, something outside of my day-to-day, and I'm able to see that even in that situation, what I teach, what I have done, what I continue to do still works. That brings me to where I've just come back from 19 days. My husband and I flew over the pond, as they call it, over to England, and we cruised and we visited several countries: England, Spain, Portugal. We spent time in just more than a handful of cities. We were on a ship. We didn't have access to a kitchen. There was food, 24 hours, 7 days a week of those 19 days. And I'm excited that by the end of my trip, the most form-fitting outfit that I brought with me, right there in that picture, still fit. And that may not seem like a big deal to you, but to me, someone who used to, embarrassing but true, pack 2 sets of vacation clothes, the ones that were more fitted and smaller size often for the beginning of the vacation, what I would fit when I left home, and ones that were way more loose and often a bigger size, the ones that I knew I would inevitably need by the end of vacation. And back then I was much younger, so I was not taking 19-day trips around the world, okay? We're talking about sometimes a 7 or 8-day trip home for Thanksgiving would require me to bring 2 sets of clothes because I was not able to maintain my shape if I ate what I wanted, or in times where I didn't pack 2 sets of clothes is because I was committed to dieting through the vacation. My clothes would fit, but you guessed it, I would not get to enjoy any of the food and all of the distraction that would come with trying to be on a diet while vacationing. So that said, this is a really, really big deal to me. And so that's why I'm excited to share what I discovered, what I noticed, because I talked to so many women who struggle in the same way that I have struggled and who want to get to where I am now with this. So now that you know why we're even talking about this, let's jump into point number 1. Point number 1 is that mindset matters. Oh my gosh, it absolutely matters. What you tell yourself about what's possible in terms of your results, what you tell yourself even about the vacation itself, how you see food and eating on vacation, whether or not you look at vacation as a time to just like let loose and just let it rip and do whatever, all of that matters, and all of that is going to influence your thoughts, your feelings, which will then lead to your actions, what you do when you're actually on vacation, which will lead to results. Now, there are several mindset traps that make it very, very hard, near impossible, I would say, to do something like what I just did, to go 19 days away from home, away from your kitchen, not be on a diet, and to still be able to fit your clothes. However, what I will tell you is the mindset that I now have, that I've worked for a long time to cultivate, which is just food is just part of life. It's neither good nor bad. There's some food that's more nourishing, there's some food that's more indulgent, and my goal is to just be somewhere in the middle, if not at every single meal, overall over time. So I take a very relaxed approach. Now, granted, there are some standards, some things that I do include in all my meals because apart from weight loss, they make me feel good. However, I don't have very prescriptive rules that I follow anymore. So my mindset is one that's more relaxed. However, I realize that it's something that I got to over time, and there are steps between where you may be now and getting to that mindset. And that is why I have created a new resource for you. It's a masterclass. It is called the Moderation Mindset. Currently, at the time of this filming, I'm going to be offering it complimentary. So if you're interested in working on your mindset such that moderation, eating moderately, and having a result like this is possible, I encourage you to go ahead and just click the link below. It will be linked in the description for the Moderation Mindset and get yourself into that masterclass. All right, so that said, we said mindset matters. Now that you know, you got to get your mind right so you can take certain actions. Let's move on to point number 2. Point number 2 is that simplicity leads to sustainability. So what I find really interesting is that oftentimes we follow, and I've been guilty, we follow these really complex approaches because we feel like sometimes the more complex, the more intricate, the more specific, the more likely it is to really work because clearly the plan is dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's. I'm going to get results. That may be true if you can stick to it. And what I have learned over time, and what my experience has been, and what my clients have experienced, is that simplicity is really what leads to sustainability. I have a very few handful of guidelines, if you will, that I follow when it comes to building my meals. And because those guidelines are so simple, I don't need to be home to follow them. I don't need to have access to a kitchen to follow them. I can be in a whole different country or multiple different countries and still follow them. And so that is a big part of why I was able to nourish my body in a way that made me feel full and satisfied, still have plenty of room for indulgences, and still fit my clothes when I came home. If you want to know what those handful of strategies that I use, or guidelines I'll call them, when building my meals, I highly encourage you to go ahead and download my figure-friendly meal checklist. That is currently available right now. It's still complimentary. I don't know how long that will be the case because it also comes with a video training that really helps bring that checklist to life. It helps you understand how to build meals, whether you're home, at a friend's house, or traveling abroad. And that is linked in the description below. Remember, keep it simple. That will make it sustainable and that will make it transferable. So whether you're home or far, far away from home, you'll be able to do the things that get you the results that you need and help you feel good. All right, tip number 3 is that mindfulness and portion control go hand in hand. Oh my goodness. I cannot tell you how many times in the past I have tried to practice portion control, or I've said, okay, I'm not going to eat more than half of this dessert, or I'm not going to have seconds, or I'm going to go to this dinner and I'm not going to stuff myself, and miss the mark. It didn't happen that way. And what I noticed on this trip is that mindfulness and portion control go hand in hand. You see, as I was traveling to these different countries, indulging in all types of things, paella, fish and chips, the cocktails, tinto verano, all the things, it was easier for me to practice portion control, not because I said, okay, this is how much I can have, and I'm gonna, all of the tactical tricks. I'm gonna ask the waiter to only bring half the meal, to box up the other half, etc. Those strategies can be helpful, especially in the beginning. But where I'm at in my journey right now, what I'm noticing is that mindfulness matters. And mindfulness isn't something that you turn on when you say, okay, well, now I'm going away. I need to pay attention, or I'm sitting down for a meal that's indulgent. I need to pay attention. I tend to be mindful at every meal, even meals that are quote unquote healthy meals, on-plan meals, chicken and broccoli and potato. And by mindfulness, I mean, I just pay attention to how I'm feeling. There will be times in the meal where you will realize, I'm full, but there's still food on the plate. You're done. Or especially times when you're eating a dessert, and I found this happen so many times on my trip, where I'm eating a dessert and because I love dessert, and like the first bite is like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, this is so decadent. Second bite, this is really good. Third bite, oh, this is still yummy. Fourth bite, do I even taste it anymore? Or am I still eating just on the strength of how delicious the first bite was? So when you pay attention to how you feel, both how full you are and how satisfied you are, it's a lot easier to practice portion control. And that's even more powerful than just knowing how big your chicken breast should be, how big your serving of rice should be, etc. And there are a few other tips and strategies that you can use, more tactical strategies that you can use for practical portion control. That is why I created another resource for you. It's called the Practical Portion Control Cheat Sheet, also linked below. Also still currently complimentary for now, can't promise forever. And it is a cheat sheet on how to build your meals to make it more likely that you're able to practice portion control, including fitting in things like your cheese and your chocolate, cocktails, etc. So you can go ahead and download that. But even with that list, please remember it's the mindfulness on top of the strategies that really makes it all come together. I just feel like the Practical Portion Control Cheat Sheet gives you tactical strategies, and they're really, really good. But being mindful while you employ those strategies puts those strategies on steroids and really drives the point home. And it's really, I guess you can say, like the secret behind how I'm able to get a result like that. So to be 19 days in all these countries eating chocolate and cheese and cocktails, and to come home and all my clothes still fit. All right, I have more where that came from, but before I go on to the last 2 points, I want to hear from you in the comments. Let me know, what strategies do you use to enjoy your vacation without sabotaging the results you've gotten for yourself? Let me know in the comments below. All right, my 4th tip is you've got to find pleasure away from the plate. What you talking about, Willis? Is that what you're thinking? Okay, let me explain what I mean. What I've noticed over time is that for so many of us, food becomes our source of pleasure, one of our few consistent, reliable sources of pleasure. So when we're younger, we have fewer responsibilities, and more of our day-to-day life may look like doing things that we enjoy, doing things for fun, spending time with friends. As we age, as we go through this life, as we take on more responsibility, the fun stuff sometimes gets squeezed out. And if we're not careful, we can find that the sole place where we can consistently and reliably get pleasure, and in a way that fits into our schedule, is from food. And so when we are practicing any type of restraint, notice I talked about how many different things I ate on this trip. I don't mean restriction, but any type of restraint, it feels like, oh, FOMO, or feels like, oh, I'm being too hard on myself, or I can't have this, I'm missing out, why is this so hard? But when we are having fun, when there are plenty of other things that we enjoy that we're doing on a day-to-day basis, it becomes a lot easier to be moderate with food. It becomes a lot easier to have something, a little bit of something, enjoy it and move on, because that's not the only enjoyment that we're going to have in a day. And this is part of why, especially with the first tip, getting my mind together first, it has become easier and easier to eat in a way that doesn't cause me to gain weight on vacation, because food isn't my focus. It's part of my focus. Don't get me wrong. My husband and I love to eat and find different foods that we haven't tried before and different places to enjoy. But during my trip, I'm sightseeing, I'm hiking, I'm doing stand-up paddleboarding in the Balearic, I hope I said that correctly, sea. I'm going to shows, comedy shows. I'm just doing fun things. So I'm really getting my pleasure fix, if you will, away from the plate. So the plate is just part of the pleasure experience, and it's not the only source of pleasure. Now, I'm not suggesting that you need to go on a 19-day trip around the world in order to get your eating right, in order to be able to eat moderately. But what I am suggesting, which is what I suggest to my clients, is that you have to find a way to infuse some fun back into your everyday life to make it easier to be reasonable with food and not look to food for your only source of pleasure, which makes it very hard then to eat in any type of moderate fashion. My 5th and final tip is that practice over time produces ease. And I've traveled before, and this is not my first rodeo. There have been several years now that I can go on vacation and eat what I want and eat with ease, and my clothes still fit. However, I wouldn't be honest if I didn't say that I was amazed. I was delighted that I could travel this way in 19 days. I don't think I've ever traveled that long consecutively without a kitchen in a whole different country, not always able to predict what's going to be available to me, and to be able to rely on the system that I've created, that I use, that my clients use in order to get the desired results. I was amazed. And one of the things that became apparent to me was that practice over time definitely produces ease, because I did not at any point feel like I was efforting or really making a hard and conscious effort and putting in sweat equity in order to stay on track. When I say that practice over time produces ease, I mean that in two different ways. So the first is the obvious way, right? Practicing something over time produces ease in actually doing that thing. So it's no surprise that the strategies that I've used now for over a decade were easy to employ because I've been using them for over a decade. But what was a little bit surprising, which is part of the reason why if you followed my stories and you saw like I would try on that last night outfit throughout the trip to just see how things were going, is that I also did not follow all of my strategies to a T. So if you have followed some of my other videos and maybe you've heard me talk about the SSS method as a way to include starch or even cocktails and even sweets and still get results, if you've heard me talk about things like that, then you know that I have very frameworks and specific strategies that I teach my clients and even use myself. However, what I discovered on this particular adventure is that even when I did not always use the strategies, even when I did not always make the appropriate swaps, just sticking to the basics of how I normally eat and how I normally move was enough to keep my results. I attribute that 100% to consistency over time to time in the game. How do I know this for a fact? Because there have been times when I was creating this model, creating these strategies, practicing these strategies myself, where I was not able to deviate from the frameworks, from making the swaps, and still get results. So the only conclusion that I can come to from that is my body is at a place of balance, and what I have done intentionally and practiced over a long period of time is paying off in dividends now. So let that be encouragement for you if you are at the beginning of a sustainable weight loss journey, if you are using these strategies, using the frameworks, or creating your own, and you're like, man, but what about this situation? There are times where I maybe want to go off script. Will I ever be able to do that? The answer is yes. If you adopt a sustainable way, you get your results, and you stay consistent, not perfect, and keep going year over year over year, eventually, yes, you will get there as well. So that's all I have to offer in this video. I hope it has been insightful and helpful. Remember, it starts with mindset though, so if you haven't already, grab your spot in the Moderation Mindset Masterclass, which is linked below. And then until next time, that's all I have. So if you like this video, go ahead, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, hit the bell. If you want to hear more of my thoughts on sustainable weight loss, head over to my podcast, The Fierce Life with Concita, also linked in the description. Over 100 episodes there that you can enjoy. If you enjoy more real-time content, connect with me over on Instagram. I often say you can get my advice on my feed and my behind the scenes in my stories. And then finally, if you are ready to embark upon a sustainable weight loss journey, you have listened to this video and you're like, you know what, that's where I want to get to someday, I can help you. The way that I do that is through my signature coaching program. It's called Get It Off, Keep It Off One-on-One Coaching. It's linked below. Head over to that program page, check out the offerings, see what's all included, what's expected of you, what you can expect from me. If it seems like a fit, then go ahead and apply, and I'll look forward to talking to you on the application call. If you have questions that you just want to clear before you apply, you can always DM me over on Instagram and I will respond to you. All right, that's all I have this time, fierce friend. Until next time, stay fierce.